Hey folks, Keith McGowan here. I am the Outboard Dad, here to help you have a better boating experience. Today, we're going to see, will it start? I got oil in it. I got fuel flushed out of it. I got fresh fuel in it now with the quick clean from Mercury in there, because I like that product. I think it does a good job of cleaning everything out, but we got spotlessness out of it, so I'm not too concerned. So let's turn the key and see what happens. Remember, this video is brought to you by the ANCEL MR500 Diagnostic tool, which we're going to hook up to this if it runs, or if it doesn't run, either way, to help us find out what's going to happen. So let's turn on the water, let's turn the key, and God only knows where we go from here. Water is on. Now this is where we're going to hook up our diagnostic tool. Oh, helps if I put the oil cap on. We don't spew oil out of it. Sounds like water flow going through everything. Let's hook up our battery. I'm going to prime my squeeze ball again, even though we flushed this pretty good. Back my fuel tank up a little bit. It's hard. Let's see what happens. Turn the key off. Pressurize again. See something dripping here? It's like fuel. So I do have a fuel leak right here. Other than that, it doesn't sound too bad. Got water coming out. This is fuel. Yeah, definitely have a fuel leak. We'll go ahead and shut it off. Shut my water off. So let me show you where we got dripping here. So right down here, of course it stops as soon as I get the camera over here, but the bottom of this fuel rail is dripping all the way from up top here. So we have to find out where that leak is coming from. But look, it runs. So we probably have a little low fuel pressure, I'm going to assume, but I have to find out where that leak is coming from. So do I start it up again and look a little closer? I'm going to look a little closer first, and let's see what we can find. Let's get into this. So I'm going to take a look up here, because it appears to be coming from the top. This is where we disconnected it from when we... Oh, so this is loose here. It's just the fuel line is loose. It's got one of those permanent clamps on there. Look at that. I can pull this right off. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that clamp. Yeah. So I'm going to get this clamp off here and put a good solid clamp on there, and let's run it again. So I'm a big fan of these style clamps. I don't know if it's German style, European style, I forget what they call it, but especially on these high pressure lines. So we'll go ahead and pull the old one off. Now maybe somebody did pull that off of there or something, I don't know, because it doesn't look to be damaged at all. So I'm not sure why that would leak. But let's go ahead, put this one on. All the way, and we'll tighten this up. Nobody turns the key with my hand on the flywheel like this. Hopefully this is it and it's not something else that's leaking. Sometimes you get these motors and some of the basics just don't get checked because they say it's 2003 motor, 2004 motor, whatever it is, and they say, I don't want to mess with it, give me a new one. I don't have that kind of money, but some people do. So let's see, we're going to have to put this back in place here so everything's where it needs to be. There's a couple tie straps up here that I cut, which we'll definitely be putting some new tie straps in. So let's try it again. So I guess what I could do first is just turn the key on and see if it starts leaking, because it'll pressurize. Not seeing any leaks, but let's get the water on and let's fire it up. So personally, I like to wait a few minutes when I turn this water on, this flush. I want to get it, you know, the whole block filled up with water till it's coming out, and then we'll go ahead and fire it up. Then we'll make sure nothing's dripping. We'll go around the other side as well to make sure nothing's dripping there. Kind of clean some of this up a little bit where we dripped. Kind of ran down this fuel rail all the way, so. All right, let's fire it up. Let's shift it, see if it shifts. Yep, so we got reverse and we got forward. So that works. Got a little backfire, but I don't have anything hooked up here either. Make sure the other side's not leaking. Sounds pretty good actually, other than that little miss when we went to fire it up, or we went to give it a little throttle. So probably not a good idea to race it up too much either, just on the hose as well. So pretty interesting. We're going to have to take this a little further now and see where it goes from here. So I think my next step is to hook up my intakes on here, because there's a air sensor, I forget what it was. We saw it on the ANCEL tool. So let's hook that up, get all these hoses hooked up so everything's reading properly, and then we'll hook up our ANCEL MR500 diagnostic tool. And so there's two halves to this. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my battery first, just in case, so I don't do anything silly. And not even sure my hose is going to be okay right here, but remember too, this is going to smoke a little bit because I have some two-stroke oil in there, kind of flushing that system and keeping it lubricated as well. So we'll definitely get some straight gas as well in a separate container that we'll pump into this once we get everything diagnosed and make sure it's okay. Probably get a new set of spark plugs too, but let's get this on here. So this has a couple of studs on the intakes there. What am I hitting them? Yeah, I'm hitting my fuel line, so we're going to have to figure out how I'm going to make that work. Well, that wasn't too bad. Just had to work it around. I think I have the wrong side. And this side goes over here. Yes, this one goes over here. When it doesn't fit, you know. So there's a plug that goes on our intake sensor here, which we saw that on the ANCEL tool as showing not reading. So this should, do I have the right plug? There we go. goes up top here and gets connected. There's a couple of studs on the intakes on this side. I'll show you on that side when I get that. It fits in here with a couple of 10mm nuts. Pretty straightforward. If you have one of these motors, you probably have already had these intakes off. I like to make sure these are connected properly as well, because we want to make sure I have good airflow. So there's 2 bolts, one in the top here. It goes to the block, so make sure that's lined up. There's another one down the bottom here, which should be lined up now that the other one is. And I guess it's not. My fuel line in my way. There we go. And now we'll get the other 2 studs. And then we'll get the other half and hook it up. Assuming this fuel line needs to go down and around here so that it's not in anybody's way. So these are the 2 bolts here, top and bottom, that are going in the top there, and then that's where that hose gets connected. That is if you use the right one on the right side. So we have a couple studs here that we go over, and then get this in place, making sure our air hoses line up here. And we don't pinch this one. That's going to go on there. Now let's make sure. I'm going to put these 2 nuts I'm holding in my hand so I don't drop them down. And we'll make sure. I'm actually going to loosen this one up again to bring it out a little bit so I can line it up a little better. Probably should have done that. Probably should have waited. So I'm going to just loosen it. Top and bottom here. See if I can work it out a little bit. Actually, I'm going to have to take it off all the way. Probably get the 2 halves together and then we'll put the bolts in. There we go. That makes it a little easier. Now I can line both of these up. Get them together. Make sure this is in all the way. Needs a little shove so we can get those nuts on there. Sometimes you can use a hook tool inside there to get these lined up, but they seem to line up pretty good. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the bolts in. Actually, don't have to go crazy just to test run it here, but we may be taking them back off again. I don't know. I guess just to test run it, everything's connected. I guess we'll do our intakes here so we make sure we're pulling air across those sensors. All right. Let's get the water on. Let's hook up our ANCEL MR500 tool and let's do some diagnostics. We have our tool ready. I do have a little place I can put the tool here too. It's nice to have a little like shelf area so you're not dropping things. And we have these wires, right, we have to hook up. There is a cap that goes on this. Actually, I'm not sure where that went. I may have misplaced that. I have to find that again, or at least tape it up or something when we're done. So we're just going to click this on. If you want more details about connecting and starting up the tool from brand new, I do have a video, a few videos back. Send me a comment. I'll make sure I send you the link for that video, because I went step by step with this. Because you know how it is when you buy a new electronic tool. You have to get connected to Wi-Fi, you have to download the updates. So everything we went through step by step, right out of the box, you watch me do it so that you can do it yourself as well. So let's go ahead and hook this up to our OBD connector, and then we'll go ahead and connect this to our tool. Pretty straightforward. It's kind of like a old school computer printer connector. And we'll turn it on, and it already pops up Marine Diagnostic. So what I'm going to do first is hook up my battery cable, and we'll turn the key on and see what we read before we start it up. Then we'll turn the water on again and fire it up and see what it tells us. All right, we'll go ahead and turn our key on. Now we'll go ahead and hit our Marine Diagnostic here. Yamaha. Initializing communication. Loading data. Diagnostics. Let's see what we come up with. Engine 1. So setup. To set up the diagnostic system, take the following steps to prevent the PC from malfunctioning or being damaged by the outboard engine watercraft. Check the battery is fully charged. Remember, we went through that before as well. So we have a fully charged battery. We check that. Check that the battery terminals are not corroded. Make sure we have a good connection there and securely, and then OK, right? So we want to protect these things. So ECU information, we'll click on that first, and let's see what we have. And it's just telling us we have a diagnosis code of 3. So let's go back now, and well, we can click on the ECM, let's see. Diagnosis, so we'll go back now, and then we'll go to DTC and see what we're showing. Okay, so pulse coil normal, engine temperature sensor normal, throttle position sensor normal. So we have all this here. Engine stop lanyard switch is off. So I did not have the lanyard switch on, but it's unplugged. So I guess it's good it's showing off, right, so that it's in the right way, or else the motor wouldn't have started. So yes, I didn't have the lanyard hooked up to it, but I do have it unplugged at the ignition switch here. If you can see that, right? So I have the wire disconnected off of that switch. So everything else looks good here, normal. Our intake passage, normal intake pressure sensor. So everything is here. If you remember, we had that intake sensor unplugged and we had a fault there. So let's go back. Scan DTC diagnostic RPT. So read data stream, right? So live stream we're going to click on. All right, now let's fire it up and see what it does. Got to get our water on again. Make sure we have a good flow through the motor. Don't see any fuel dripping, so that's good. So let's start it up and see what it does. So I'm going to go OK. 2 fuse selected, so I didn't collect anything. So shift switch, dual engine system switch, cutoff switch, overheat thermo switch. Let's cancel that, and we'll do value live data. So now we're going to run live data, and let's see what our engine speed is, and let's say OK. So we're at 750 RPM, right? So we know that that's functioning. So now let's go, we'll escape out of that. We'll go back to live data. Let's check our intake pressure, our atmospheric pressure, battery voltage, and let's do that. Okay. So our intake pressure 9.0, intake pressure, I guess there's 2 intake pressure sensors, and our battery voltage is 13.7, which tells me it's charging, because I know I have a 12.5 with it not charging, so we know that that's working. So we'll escape out of that. So we'll go back to live data. What else do we want to see? We checked our fuel injection duration we'll look at, our ignition timing we'll look at, and let's see our engine temperatures. There's a high and a low, and let's do OK. So now we know our engine temperature is low because we really just started it up, and it's showing me degrees Celsius too, so we should be able to change that scale. Not really sure how to do that. We'll have to look into that. I think we might have just figured it out. So it has a max of 255 and a minimum of 41. So that's pretty cool. So you can check this to run it. So it looks like our engine temperature is 90 and rising. So that's pretty cool. Our fuel injection duration is 2.46 and shifting a little bit. So let's escape out of that. We'll do again. Let's see what else we can look at. Live data. So intake temperatures, oil pressure. Let's do oil pressure. Let's make sure we have good oil pressure while we're running this motor and our engine speed, right? So oil pressure, 82, 85. So range is 0 to 36 on this one and 0 to 245 on that one. So that's pretty cool. We'll escape out of that. Let's go back to live data. And let's see what else we can look at. Our engine speeds, total hours of operation. We'll just check that, even though we're sitting here idling. 361 hours on this motor. So we have a running motor here. Going to get some spark plugs for it. Really, how do you know for sure it's going to work right until you get it on a boat and get it out on the water? So that's going to be an interesting thing. How do we do that and where do we go from here? So we're going to do some more tests. I'm going to take a look at the coils in the back and clean up some of the grounds. And we're going to see what other diagnostics we can go through. Looks like this is a decent motor. We're going to do some compression tests next because remember it showed low. So please like, subscribe, send me any comments that you have. And please click on the link below for the ANCEL MR500 as well as the discount code from the Outboard Dad and buy your ANCEL MR500 today. Send me any comments if you have questions of how it operates and we'll help you get through it. Have a great day.